But I find that recently that before I had the operation and just after the operation, I went 5 times within a 90% chance of dying. 5 times.
Wow.
They nearly lost me and then managed to bring me back again. So I'm indeed very fortunate.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I mean, like from obviously you're playing polo.
yeah,
You fall.
yeah,
You had a horse land on you.
yeah. Well, apparently, all I remember is I'm going like a bat out of hell,
Yeah.
trying to chase down James Harper, who is the #1 polo player in England.
Yeah.
And my horse lost his front legs, and I nosedived into the ground, and I hit my head at about 25 miles an hour against the ground, a real solid headbutt. And then I saw a big ball of fire, a red ball of fire,
Yeah.
and then nothing. So I know nothing after that until I come round from a coma, which was, I think, induced 2 months afterwards.
2 months lost.
Yeah, and then the next 2 weeks on, I still have very little recall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And within those 2 months, they were the 5 times where you went, came back.
Most of the went and come back was in the first 24 hours.
And do you have any recollection of those?
No, none at all. So
Nothing.
just what I'm finding out bit by bit, piecing together.
Yeah.
Like, they took 2 hours to get me in a stable condition
Yeah.
for the helicopter flight
Yeah.
to Brighton Hospital. And then they said to Angela, you might want to say goodbye to him because we might not get him there. And apparently on the way to hospital, they had ambulances stationed in locations on the way from Cowdrey to Brighton, just in case they needed to come down and give me some specialist treatment.
Wow.
And then I got to the hospital, and they took me into the operating theatre straight away.
Yeah.
And then the surgeon came out and said to Angela, well, it looks like it's not going to work. I think we're going to lose him. So perhaps you ought to get the children together and just go and say goodbyes. And then apparently she said, is there absolutely nothing you can do? And they said, well, we could drill a hole in his head and let the pressure off the brain, but the shock will probably kill him. And she said, well, if he's going to die, then you just want to try it. So she had to sign a bit of paper giving them permission to drill this hole in my head, which is there.
Yeah.
And they went ahead and drilled the hole, let the blood off because I had a big brain bleed, and it must have worked because
Yeah.
I'm here today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not a dream. You are here.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a story, though.
Yeah, it is.
And Angela's, your good lady, is obviously incredibly brave as well, although she probably didn't have any choices, really. But
well, I think she went through a very difficult period for the next several months.
Yes.
And she was in a hotel in Brighton so she could come and see me whenever. And then, being cost conscious, she worked out it was rather expensive. And so she got a bed and breakfast lodging next to the hospital and lived there.
Incredible.
So she could come and see me. And when I was recovering and coming round and able to speak and do things, she would read to me every night. And one of the books she read, which was very good, was about the All Black rugby team.
Yeah.
And how they create their persona and their team ethos.
Yeah.
And make it such a special thing.
Yeah.
And she read me a chapter every night.
How
And I said,
lovely.
that is a very good book, Angela. I said, not only does it help with what I've been through, but it's a great business pointer. I think you should order half a dozen of them and give one to each of the directors of the company,
Yeah.
which he did.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
And that's quite incredible. So actually, for someone who's got to where you have, with a company, with a business, and still be inspired by something.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
you obviously as
Well,
we'll
things
come
like
to.
things like that are inspirational.
Yes.
Um,
Do you think you would have? Strange question, not really important. Would you have? Do you think you'd have come across that book had you have not had an accident, or do you think it would have? Do you think it would have had the same impact had you have not had an accident?
It would have probably passed me by.
No, I know, because this is. I mean, it's a problem that I think we all share. That certainly when you work for yourself, and things grow and they progress, and you enjoy doing it. You're passionate. You're committed. You spend all this time, creating, but then you don't have the time to. There's lots of other things that possibly pass by or you don't get to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was important.
Yeah.
And also, in my first year of recovery, I did my own book, didn't I?
You did. And I'm a very proud owner of one copy.
Yeah. And that probably did more to bring me back into the world than anything.
Yeah.
Dragging out the memories and the past and putting them to the present and hopefully the future.
Was it almost sort of a cathartic, sort of nice way of, because you've had the accident, life then stops. You can take stock. You then get that time to be able to stand, metaphorically, not literally, but stand and look and think, that's where it started. This is where we are, and you've almost got a bit of time to breathe and, plan to move forward. Did the book then? Was it almost like not only a collection of stories and, like you say, things that you've done, but did it then aid moving forward? Did it give more clarity to what how you would sort of move forward into the future with the business?
Well, I think, like most entrepreneurial businessmen, I led a very selfish existence, and so writing the book was a great way to then suddenly think about other people, where you came from and where you're going, etc. Also, in one of my many dreams that I had when I was in the coma, I did meet the Grim Reaper, and it took the form of Angela and myself flying to South America to go embark on a suicide package.
Right.
And we were lined up in the queue, and eventually it was our turn, and the Grim Reaper was there, and he looked at me and he said, hello, Mr. Barfoot, what can we do for you? And I said, well, I've come here to die, but now I'm here, I don't really want to die. Oh, he said, what would you like to do? I said, I would really like to go back again.
Yeah.
Oh, right. And if I went back again, how long do you think I would have? He said, probably 20 years. I said, please, can I have them and go back again then?
Yeah.
He said, okay, get out of my way. Sadly, and it keeps being pointed out to me, I didn't ask for Angela to come back as well. But luckily, he overlooked that and sent her back as well.
Which is
Probably looked after me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in the course of writing my book, when I started getting on the roll and putting the chapters together, I must say, I did have a ghostwriter, but she wasn't a lot of good to me because my speech would tire and it would be very difficult to talk.
Yeah.
And my writing was downhill, so I couldn't write either. So in the end, I picked up my iPad and started tapping the chapters out on an iPad.
Yeah.
And one finger, da 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 da. And as I finished the chapter, I'd buzz them off to the ghostwriter after they'd been proofread by Angela to make sure the spelling mistakes were okay and the grammar wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
And then the ghostwriter put all the chapters together and made sense of them to create the book. And there was a lot of stories that I could have told and I should have told, but I felt I was running out of time because I thought the Grim Reaper might come back and get me.
Right.
And so I had to get the job finished so that I had the story to tell my children and grandchildren where I'd come from and what started the whole thing.
And this is what's incredible, and this is the ongoing pattern, and it'd be interesting to find out if you know this is you or uniquely to people like you, entrepreneurs, is that drive, that commitment that I've got to get a job done, even when you're bluntly, battered to bits, can't eat, can't move, can't do anything, but you've got to finish that book.
Yeah, you're driven.
I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Most people would have just gone, I'm ill, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And that's probably what makes you stand out.
Yeah, because you do look inward at yourself and say, well, if I am successful, and I think in terms of the journey I've been on, I am successful, why is the reason for being successful? Because I'm not that bright, I'm not that clever, and you think of all the different reasons why you've been able to succeed.
Yeah.
And the thing that comes back time and time again is you are driven. You're driven. No matter what the task is in front, you're driven to succeed and complete it.
So succeed is actually not perfection, but completion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So for anybody who's listening to this, of which I hope there are lots and lots, welcome Peter Barfoot of Barfoot Inc., Barfoot Fruit and Veg Worldwide. I mean, Barfoot's, huge, successful fruit and veg company, started from, tiny roots.
Well, it started from a 21-acre county council smallholding back in 1979.
Right.
And now we grow our products around the world, so they're available to our customers 365 days of the year.
And am I right in saying you cover, is it 7 countries?
30 now at the moment, 32 countries.
32 countries. Yeah. Oh, only 32.
Yeah,
okay.
only 32. Yeah. And to give some idea of scale, we farm 8,000 acres of vegetables in England and another 8,000 acres of vegetables in Senegal and another 4,000 acres in Spain, and we also have a share in a large farming business in Peru.
Wow.
So quite a scope.
So you got those scope of soils, temperatures, which I suppose obviously then helps you produce a huge range of product, different products.
Follow the sun around the world.
Yeah. So with this 21-acre field back in the day, and I know you come from a farming background, but you've got this field. So what did you plant in there?
Well, we started growing traditional vegetable crops, like lettuce and cabbage and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
But they weren't really going anywhere.
How do you mean by not going anywhere? It didn't make any money, or?
Well, it didn't make a lot of money, and it was a hard slog. And you could do all these crops much better and much efficiently up in the eastern counties.
Right.
So messing around on a bit of poor soil in Hampshire wasn't really a progressive way forward.
Okay.
But what we did have in Hampshire was the light, lots of sunlight, and relatively warmth.
Yeah.
We have the Isle of Wight more to the southwest. It breaks up the clouds and sends them around the chalk hills behind us and leaves us basking in sunlight
Lovely.
and gives us what is a microclimate.
Yeah.
So that area of Hampshire where I was born and brought up was very famous for growing strawberries. In fact, it was the biggest area of strawberry production
Yeah.
in Europe for over 100 years. And my ancestors, going back 6 generations, were basically farm workers from Botley that
Yeah.
escaped onto the commons of Hedge End on the outskirts of Botley and started to grow strawberries.
Okay. Yeah.
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 And the same climate that gave them a good strawberry industry
Yeah.
also was perfect for the range of exotic veg that I produce.
So this is then we're going in then starting with the, which I read and I do. We've obviously talked in the past, but you were really sort of the sort of linchpin that brought in what was once considered, for want of a better term, posh veg, but or you know the courgette, corn on the cob,
Yeah,
tender stem.
yeah.
That was
Asparagus,
yeah,
yeah.
and on and on and on.
Chili
but of course,
peppers, we like to term them as exotic, luxury class vegetables.
okay.
But a lot of them are now becoming the norm.
Well, I would say they are now, you know, and that was. I mean, what? I mean, it's an incredible. I mean, was that a calculator? I mean, obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but what was the? I mean, because that's a big risk, isn't it? We all eat. You know, I had a conversation with someone a little while ago about eating game meat. Okay, and that largely it's psychological in the sense of you have a turkey at Christmas. Yeah. Or you used to. I know it's eaten more often now. Most people on a Sunday have chicken, pork, or beef.
Yeah,
They wouldn't have pheasant.
yeah.
Maybe not a venison. You know, but it's still lean and lovely meat. But it's like a you know, a psychological thing. Yes, at some point, would it have been more difficult to get hold of? I don't know. I think years ago people ate that rather than the beef and the pork. But I just think it's a really clever or lucky or a bit of both that to break the habits of people, to bring in them the corn, the courgette, and so on and so forth. What made you do? What was the idea behind that? How did you know? Did you think it was going to happen, or did you just take a punt? What was the thinking behind
I knew
it?
we had a special climate. They would grow products that needed more warmth and sunlight, right? So sweet corn needs a soil temperature of 14 degrees just to germinate, and then it needs sunlight to ripen and mature it. So that was ideal. Courgettes, well, we grew marrows because marrows were an old-fashioned staple vegetable, weren't they?
Yeah.
And then we thought, well, why don't we pick them smaller and produce what was called then zucchinis?
Yeah.
And we call them now courgettes, but they are
Sounds much posher, doesn't it?
zucchini. That's
yeah.
right. And I remember growing 5 acres of courgettes, packing them into boxes, sending them to Covent Garden and to Southampton and Portsmouth wholesale markets. And then the company called Geese, who were big banana producers,
Yeah.
said to me, do you think you could pre-pack those courgettes? And because we think we could sell them to Marks and Spencer's.
Okay.
So we did. We laid a concrete apron to our yard
Yes.
to bring the lorries back into, all by hand. We converted a dive barn into a packing shed,
Right.
and we used to pack these courgettes with overwrap with
So-
PVC.
So just to set the scene,
Yeah.
what year is this? What sort of time? When was this roughly?
This was around about 1980.
Right. So I just want to keep a picture going through because, whether you like it or not, you are the theme of this podcast is pretty much you or you are it personified, so to speak, this sort of pursuit of excellence, right?
Yeah.
This constant drive, and it's not all about money, but it's about someone having a passion, having a drive, and reaching a goal.
Yeah.
Whether it's for just fulfillment, financial, or anything else. So now we've gone from the field, the salad, the what I call the standard veg, be it salad, cabbages, that sort of thing. We've got the zucchini, as it's known,
Growing
then, or
something,
courgette, yeah.
something different. Yeah.
And now we're packaging that. We're building an infrastructure to process, for want of a better term, that product. And now we've got potentially a big, sort of outlet to sell it, and a very well-known one.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
this must have felt quite exciting.
It was, yeah, felt really good. And so we started off with courgettes, and they said, is there anything else you could do for us? Because retailers back in the late 1970s were only just feeding their feet into their high street. And so they needed suppliers to supply them. And you could do all sorts of things and get away with all sorts of things. In a way, it was a bit like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Stuff you couldn't dream of doing today because it's all regulated. Technology has to be perfect. You mustn't have any foreign bodies in the products. So everything has to pass through metal detection
Yes.
and then ultraviolet rays to kill any bacteria on the product. But back in those days, there was nothing like that. You just had to have a very good quality product,
Yeah.
package it, and then load it on the lorry and send to the depot.
Yeah.
So anyway, the next product was sweet corn. We knew we could grow sweet corn.
Right.
So we started growing sweet corn.
Right.
And I think the first sweet corn was about 20 acres of sweet corn.
Yeah.
Well, putting that into perspective, we now grow 3,500 acres of sweet corn.
How many cobs is that a year?
Well, I should know these things, but I am bombarded by these.
Well, I tell you what. Let's be kind. On a good month now,
Yeah.
how many cobs would you process?
Well, we'll process 4 million this week. Yeah,
4 million
Yeah.
cobs
Yeah.
in 1 week.
yeah,
And process means, in layman's terms, picked, cleaned, checked, packaged, out, delivered on a
Labelled.
shelf,
Yeah,
labelled.
labelled.
The whole process from
Yeah.
growth to purchaser to customer.
yeah,
4 million
Yeah.
in a week.
yeah. And we'll do 200 ton of courgettes.
Wow! In 1 week,
Yeah,
200 tons.
yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah,
Even I couldn't eat that much.
yeah. So,
You must have quite a few green giants helping you then with the sweet corn.
yeah.
So this change, this now then, we're not pulling away from farming. Obviously, you're growing product and a lot more product. But this must have. What were the changes now that are going on in your head? Because bluntly, you're becoming, farmer businessman into the biggish business.
Well, I went from being a farmer to needing to be a business person.
Was that a big transition? Was that a big leap for you?
Oh, huge. The
Yeah.
biggest one was you've got a certain ability, and that is based on a pair of hands.
Yeah.
And eventually, the pair of hands is no longer enough. So you have to learn to delegate and use other people's pairs of hands.
Difficult.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And, to be frank, getting over the difficulty and understanding the journey I had to go on cost me my marriage and everything else that was personally around me.
So is this now stemming back to when you mentioned earlier about being an entrepreneur, that maybe this is a trait that's carried through, or certainly just one that's unique to you, but you almost have to become selfish, self-centered to
Yeah,
create
you
that.
are, you are right. Rather cruel, Simon, but you're right. Selfish, self-centered, and knowing enough is never enough.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So anyway, we started on the journey. We had a refrigerated lorry body as a cold store, and everything was manhandled. They didn't even have a forklift.
wow,
I was told last week I employ 53 forklift drivers now.
incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah,
So back then I thought I was the only one that could drive a forklift, but obviously I wasn't.
yeah,
I thought I was the only one that could drive a straight line,
yeah,
but on a tractor, but I wasn't. So you learn all these things as a process,
yeah.
but the biggest thing is you can't do it all yourself.
No, well, I tell you, a really funny coincidence. No need to mention names at all, but we've got a rather nice chap who comes in every now and again, who's sort of semi-retired, but he started a haulage company some years ago, and he started with a van, and he brought his sons into the business. He built it up to having 40 HGVs,
Yeah.
I think, around there. His sons have now taken on, I think they've nearly doubled that. Okay. And he then said, we deliver a lot of fruit and veg for a local company, which I think turned out to be yours. But I just thought, again, it's relative, but I thought, what a lovely story, from starting from, and then building this amazing thing. And of course, that's needed because of the amount of produce you're producing.
Yeah.
So, everything goes hand in hand.
It rolls on and on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's not just what's in your space, in your sort of world, but that rolls on to someone else's world.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing, in Senegal, we're growing food on land that's never grown food in the history of the world.
Really?
Yeah, and employing close to 3,000 people. Now, that has a secondary effect because those people then need shops to spend their money in.
Yes.
So the 3,000 has basically 3,000 employees has basically helped and encouraged 25,000 people within the area to do subsidiary trading and work.
Yeah.
So it rolls on and on.
Which is a lovely thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
That one thing feeds another, feeds another.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
sounds like the ideal world.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you're at the top and it all feeds down through.
Well, I don't know about being at the top, being somewhere in the chain, yeah.
So you come out the field, we've gone to M&S. I know I have a basic understanding of, different vegetables and things that weren't available at some time. And then the TV chefs popped up and then restaurants are buying
Yeah.
and stuff. And then people are thinking, I want some of that. I'd like to have.
Yeah, so we got courgettes, we got sweet corn.
Yeah.
I was back in 1991. I was in South Africa.
Yeah.
Look at
It's all right. Clear the throat. It's fine. Absolutely fine. In fact, have a sip. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do exactly the same. Actually, I'm going to have a little sip of my cold coffee.
So are we ready again?
Absolutely.
So back in 1991, I was in South Africa looking for someone to supply me sweet corn in the season, in the winter months. And while I was there, I saw a product, a funny looking product called butternut squash. Now, I didn't know that Sainsbury's actually would have wanted to sell butternut squash if they had a supplier.
Yeah.
So I bought 5 acres of butternut squash, got them loaded into a container, sea container, and shipped them to England. And then I embarked on selling butternut squash. Okay. Well, butternut squash, with the help of social media chefs such as Jamie Oliver, and it was a lovely lady.
Who are we talking? Not the one from Benita, doing any lovely lady chefs who were big on TV back around.
Got the owns the football club at
Oh,
Delia Smith.
Delia Smith,
Delia
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
lovely lady.
Cooking for One.
Yeah.
I relied on that book
Yeah.
for a while.
So Jamie Oliver and Delia Smith were doing these recipes, soups, etc., on butternut squash.
Yeah.
So we hit that market just the right time. And within 18 months, 2 years, we were selling 350 ton of butternut squash a year,
Wow.
growing it in Spain, in Greece, and South Africa, and then taking it across the Atlantic Ocean to Argentina and growing butternut squash in Mendoza. So there's opportunity somewhere, find the opportunity, and then make it work. So whenever that opportunity exists on the new product, whether it's a twitchy nose that smells of egg or what, or luck, I don't know what it is, but we've been very fortunate in getting the new crops, the new wave. Like 8 years ago, tender stem was only grown in the Kenyan Highlands.
Yeah.
It was grown on license to M&S, who own the rights of the seed to grow tender stem.
Right.
And so it was grown in the Kenyan Highlands to a perfect temperature, because in the Kenyan Highlands you can go up and up and up and find you're on the equator basically, but by going up the mountains you can get the perfect climate for any time of year. So it was grown in the Kenyan Islands as a product to pack in air freight to England that worked in well with their main crop, which is roses and flowers.
Right.
So butter beans, French beans, tender stem, roses and flowers would typically fill an airplane with product to send into Heathrow.
Yes.
So this product called tender stem had the mystique of only being able to grow in the Kenyan Highlands, and so we thought, I don't know, with our nice special maritime climate on the Hampshire Sussex coast, we can have a go at that.
Yeah.
So we did, and we got Tesco's to come and look at the crop and sample it, and they said, no, Mr. Barfoot, you can't grow tender stem in England. You need to be in Kenya. Well, there's the crop, it's in the field, and it looks pretty good to me.
Yes.
And it tastes like tender stem.
Yes.
So we must be able to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, they turned me down, but Sainsbury's said they would try it if I could produce it organically for their organic sales. So we did. We grew organic tender stem.
Yes.
And it took off really, really well. So after about 18 months of pushing it for them to stock it as a conventional product, they did. And not only did our growing and sales increase in England, we started growing in Spain. So from June to November, we produced tender stem in England.
Yes.
And from November through till late May, early June, we produced in Spain.
So this is your term, chasing the sun.
Yeah, chasing the sun.
Yeah.
And we regularly sell 100 ton a week of tender stem.
That's incredible.
Packed, labelled.
Phenomenal.
And it is a phenomenal product because it's nice green colour, it tastes sweet, and children, believe it or not, love it.
Yes. Well, your normal broccoli can become very, soft and mushy, and obviously children are finicky anyway. But you're right; it has a not quite as sort of coarse as asparagus, but it has a nice sort of
Yeah.
consistency,
It does.
if not overcooked.
It links very well with asparagus.
Yes.
Asparagus is tender step.
Yes.
If you went into a local pub restaurant tonight, I guarantee you'd have either tender stem or asparagus on the plate, with probably 5 French beans. Now, there's another story. Historically, we grew a lot of butter beans, grew off sticks,
Yes.
and you pick them, etc. And they're a lovely English product. But a good butter bean is hard to prepare. You need to trim the sides and edges of the bean
Yes.
and then put it through a slicer.
Yes.
So
My
so
favourite.
it's hard work.
Yeah. I
And
love
mothers aren't teaching their daughters how to do it.
it. No.
So what's a better product? A French bean. A French green bean, probably 3 or 4 inches long, comes in a nice soldier pack,
Just trim the ends.
etc. Trim the ends,
Yeah.
steam it or boil it, and there you go. Much easier than
Yeah.
a butter bean.
Yeah.
Now, we used to grow, believe it or not, 200 acres of butter beans, but we knew it was a dying product.
Yeah.
But the green beans had possibilities. Not as nice, not as quintessentially English, but a good product and easy and quick to prepare. So we started growing French beans. Now, the labor cost of picking French beans is very high.
Right.
Oh, and for the amount we were selling, you need at least 100 people picking.
Okay.
So anyway, it's another product for us, French beans, but we knew to really hit the marketplace, we had to get our costs down.
Yes. Yes.
So we bought a harvester in Italy that could harvest French beans and do away with 100 pickers. So we could really scale it up.
Yeah. So this is now running at 100 mile an hour, isn't it? Because we've got into M&S with our product, and then we've had, I think you said there Sainsbury's would take, organic product, and then you had another one that strangely came out and said, well, you can't grow this, when actually physically you were, which is quite a bizarre thing, because I would have thought supermarkets would have been more, we don't care, you do it, just can you supply it?
Yeah.
Which you clearly could. And now you're into cutting down workforce, big bits of machinery. I mean, this is now massive investment. Everything must have changed dramatically by now. I mean,
Oh yeah, we're at a step change.
yeah.
So
where are you? I mean, so I'm thinking of you now, the farmer, growing those veg. Now you're running big business.
yeah.
Yeah. And you are surely then surrounded by a ring of people doing stuff for you. Yeah. So now you're not doing what you sort of ultimately were brought up surrounded by, which is working with your hands, but you're now not even, you are controlling, but you're delegating. That must be quite a strange, or was it a very subtle transition? I mean, did you ever at any point turn around and go, wow, this is,
Well,
I
I had to employ good managers because I made a mess of things.
Right.
I messed up my marriage. I messed up everything. I was probably in debt at the time. And the only way out of being able to run a household, a farm, and a factory was to get people to help me. And so that was the beginning of building.
But what was in your mind though when you were doing that? I mean, would you say,
Survival.
My father was energetic and driven, so therefore genetically I was. What was the aim at the time? What was going on in the head? If the marriage is going, this is going, that's going. I mean, that's quite robust things to fall by the wayside, but yet you still had this sort of concrete, sort of steel, idea. You've got to get forward. What is that? Where does that come from? Is it just you, or is it something you work at? Is it something that as things happen in front of you, you want to add to them? Did you one day, when in the early days, go, I want a huge business, I want to grow loads of veg?
No.
What was it?
Well, you start doing the business.
Is it the money or is it achievement?
No,
or?
it's not the money.
No.
It's not the pot of gold at the end
You
of
don't
the
strike me
rainbow.
as the one who does it for money.
It's
No.
the rainbow. That's
Yeah.
why you do it. And the pot of gold is just
Byproduct.
a
Default.
byproduct.
Yeah.
If you get there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as the business grew and we kept developing new products that hit the marketplace in the right spot, we then needed quality people to make these products come through to the marketplace.
And that's a difficult thing, isn't it? Finding good people.
Yeah. And when you find a good person to manage, let them manage.
Yeah. See, that must be difficult from someone who's, only just sort of grasped the idea of letting go and delegating and...
Yeah, but when you've hit rock bottom,
Yeah.
you have to grab whatever's there.
Yes.
And when you personally can't do any more with those two hands,
Yes.
you have to let someone else join you and use their two hands and their ability, which is not easy, but it's a means to an end, and you have to do it. So many people will employ a manager and then still want to manage themselves. Well, and the biggest problem is understanding everybody makes mistakes and toleration of a manager's mistakes. And when you look at yourself and what you do, you make mistakes all the time.
Yes.
But you excuse them and get on with it the next day and try and put those things right. Well, when you employ a manager to manage, you have to let him also have the license to make mistakes
Yes.
and put them right. That's the only way he will develop and he will learn.
Did you trust anyone?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. And you can't run a business by trusting people.
No.
Now, if you want to hear a story off the press, and we're talking about 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
a very senior manager who was like part of the family, very important in what we did. He controlled all the casual labor on the farm,
Right.
not in the factory, but on the farm.
So, sorry, just for clarity, when you say family, you mean part of, the Barfoots, the team?
So,
Yeah.
part of the Barfoot
That's
team.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So his job was to handle and sort out a seasonal workforce of 400 or 500 people.
Okay.
Now, an under manager under him, his labor costs on a certain job was too high. And when questioned about the fact that he wasn't meeting the budget, he said, I don't agree with the figures.
Right.
They're wrong. So we looked into it a bit more, and at the same time, we were doing COVID flow testing of staff,
Yeah.
and we noticed 6 people weren't there to be tested. Where were they? Well, they didn't exist.
Wow.
They were ghost workers.
Wow.
So this guy, who was Lithuanian, a very intelligent person,
Yeah.
started off working for us in our accounts department.
Wow.
Was employing ghost workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then paying them
Yeah.
and putting their payments into bank accounts that he owned.
Wow.
So this took a week of looking into our payment records and bank accounts and payments, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And this has been going on for 13 years.
No way.
And I trusted him implicitly. And it's brought about a big momentum in terms of trust, etc., etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So he'd been on this creating ghost workers unnoticed for 13 years.
I mean, just to quickly pause you and then just cut in. I mean, this I can imagine is, when you've got this huge setup and these masses of people, it must be incredibly difficult to keep a hand on everything. And I guess that's then why you've got managers and under managers and heads of departments and all this. And I guess for you also, and I don't know if it makes a difference from the process of taking people on, but I guess there's also a lot of seasonal labour.
Yeah.
So it might be, for want of a better term, slightly more relaxed in how you take people on. And maybe, I don't know. But
what it points to is that the trust you give people is not always got.
no.
And it was quite a shock.
But did you take it as well, I just got that wrong, clearly. And then does it taint your decision making moving forward? Or do you just cut that way as I got that one wrong, but we still need to continue to trust people?
We do.
Yeah.
And it's still ongoing at the moment.
Yeah.
We're talking of a figure that's probably 750,000
Yeah.
plus.
Well, I tell you what, on that point, because I've got loads more questions, I want to get them in order. We'll take a quick break. We'll have a drink. We'll come back in 2 minutes.
Right, okay.
Well, we've had a quick break.
Yeah.
Open the doors. I was getting quite warm.
Yeah.
Bit cooler in here now. Just to recap, you were just telling me a rather sad story based on trust and clearly someone's misinterpretation of that and how they bluntly, in my language, ripped you off over a period of time. I think you said 13 years.
Yeah.
And you felt that might have had a cost collectively of nearly £750,000.
Yeah. So, yes, and it's made us really look into ourselves because not just me, but the senior managers and directors have just been let down. And for us, we're too trusting in the way we run our business. But without trust, you're not going to go anywhere. You have to trust people. You have to trust someone.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we just move on from this.
Yeah.
And just business as normal. Probably bring in some better policing of how we do things, but you have to trust people. You have to take on managers, you have to let them manage, and you have to trust them. And then again, it might bite you, but there you go. You've got to.
Well, I was going to say that's one thing. Just in simplified terms, having say a unit, a premises in the UK, you run a big business. You've got the sort of chain of command and ground staff, doing the business. What was the change then for you when you started to break into other countries? So now, you said earlier you farm in 32 different countries.
Yeah.
You've got 31 different setups going on,
Yeah.
Abroad.
Yeah.
And they're running 24/7, lots of people involved. Psychologically, what's that like? Because you can't physically keep a tag on everything that goes on,
No,
surely.
this is where trust comes in.
Yeah.
You get the best people you can get, and where do you find them? Sometimes by chance, sometimes you through headhunters. Headhunters are a bunch of unscrupulous so-and-sos, to put it mildly. For everyone they give you, they could end up taking two and give it to somebody else.
Right.
But I'm very good at finding people and noticing something that they might have in them to create a very good manager.
Yes.
We have a lady with our business called Christina. She's Polish, and she used to clean our offices and toilets. And I said to her one day, very attractive lady, she was wiping the desk in front of me and wiggling her bum under my nose. And I said,
Oh, so that's what it was, right?
and,
Okay.
and I said, Christina, what do you do in Poland? And she turned around and she looked at me nonchalantly and said, in Poland, I am a master of business. I said, very interesting. Can you use a computer? Yes, of course I can, no problem. So I said to my managing director, and Christina, who cleans the opposite toilets, it says she's a master of business and she can use a computer. Oh, he said, well, let's find out. So we put her in front of a computer and she opened it up and away she went, doing various little tasks to prove she had an understanding of what she was doing. So we give her a job working with the customers, collating the order sheets of products they wanted into factory worksheets and then picking sheets and delivery notes followed by an invoicing trail back into us.
Wow. Okay.
So quite a
Quite
a
involved.
big,
Yeah.
quite an involved job.
Yeah.
But she took to it like a duck to water. She now has at least 8 girls working under her doing a similar thing. She does a shift pattern of 4 12 hours on and 4 12 hours off cycle. 4 days on, 4 days off.
Yes.
Continental shift system. And in her 4 days off, she runs the local gymnasium in the road.
Right.
And she's now been working for us for in the region of 12 years. She owns several houses in the area and she rents out to other Eastern Europeans. So
This is a success story within a success
yes,
story.
right. I'm just showing you the gems that are
Yeah.
in front of you, and if you can find them and use them, those gems.
Yeah.
We have another guy who was a Kremlin guard in the Red Army,
Right.
and he took part, if you listen to his story, in the discussions that took place with the generals on the Gorbachev affair and what they were going to do with the Gorbachev situation. I said to him, Alex, why you? He said, well, Mr. Barfoot, I make very good tea. I said, oh, right, okay. So that's where you are. You're a guard outside the room. You made the tea. And now you're here. You came to me and you ended up in the field picking courgettes. And now you run by goods into the factory of all the trucks that are arriving and going out again. Yes? I said, well, how did that all happen? He said, I realized that after standing guard on these meetings, I probably knew too much. So I might very well disappear.
Right.
So I thought I'd better get out before I disappear.
Yes.
So I ran away and came to England, and you gave me a job and you helped me. And now I have English passport. I said, oh, right. So, yeah, but now you moved on from running our yard to running our biogas plants.
Yes.
How did that happen, Alex? He said, well, I have a degree in industrial chemistry, Mr. Barber.
What's the chances?
Yeah, what's the chances? Another gem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it? I notice here there's a running theme of Eastern Europeans.
Yeah.
Is their work ethic different?
Yeah, they're unbelievable, their work ethic. And people say to me, oh, you built your business up on Eastern European labour and not paying them accordingly.
Cheap labour,
Yeah.
supposedly.
Well, there's nothing cheap about them. What's cheap is the amount of work they do in return for their
They're
money.
cost efficient. They're not cheap. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. In fact, out in the fields at the moment, picking asparagus, the top asparagus picker earns £750 a week regularly.
Really?
Yeah. And they all want to earn at least £500.
Yeah.
And you could say that a lot of them want to earn £500 net
Yeah.
after the deductions.
Sure.
And if you do not give them the opportunity to earn that type of money, they'll leave and go somewhere else.
Yes. Yes.
But they are essential to running our business.
Yeah.
And when you look at our managerial regime through the business, whether it's factory or farming, is based on Eastern Europeans that came here 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And this guy who ran the scam of ghost workers joined us 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
thought a lot of him.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a bit of getting over, but we'll get over it
Yeah.
and move on.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you've more than proved that you can overcome most hurdles.
Yeah.
Consistent on that one.
Yeah.
So you talk about the Eastern Europeans and their work ethic, forgive me. But isn't there one particular Russian tank driver who does have a rather easy job by the sounds of things and gets to wear his slippers to work?
Yeah. Well, we have an extremely large tractor that runs on tracks.
Yeah, so this is not like a typical tractor as we would think. This is like a huge, great tract, like a building almost.
Yeah, so it pulls a big machinery that does minimum tillage ploughing. That means you don't turn the soil over, you undercut it to break the pan, and you crumble the soil texture behind it. But it takes a lot of horsepower to pull it. So the machine pulls this big machine that gives you this minimum till situation. And to drive it, you need a tank license to drive it on the road because it's on tracks.
Right.
So we have a Russian ex-army soldier with a tank license driving it. And
Brilliant.
when he gets in the tractor in the morning, he puts a pair of slippers on and leaves his boots in the corner of the field and takes his place behind the steering wheel, logs in on the sat-nav equipment inside.
So this is all basically sort of almost operated by GPS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sets it up and continues with his work, which basically entails just sitting in the driver's seat.
With his slippers on.
Yeah. And this tractor will work within a 1.5 centimetre accuracy,
That's phenomenal. That's
turning
phenomenal.
itself around on its own
Yeah.
when it comes to the end of the field and turning around to go back up again.
I mean, that is the amazing thing, technology, isn't it? That huge, great lump of machinery. I mean, enormous, great bloody lump, wet mud, and yet it's working within a 15 millimetre tolerance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Driven by...
That kills the art, though, of the old school chap that would drive a plough straight or tow a
Right.
plough straight.
Right.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I was one of those few people that could drive a straight line.
Yeah.
And now all these young kids driving our tractors can drive a straight line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we have a Russian operator working his machine on a Russian satellite somewhere up above his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Unbelievable.
Incredible. Does that drop him back off of the corner of the field where his boots are at the end of the day?
Yeah.
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 So what is the... what I really want to know is... What's it like to own a business that's, you know, I don't know the ins and outs, but I know it's got to be, you know, sort of 250 million quid's worth of business. What's that like waking up every morning?
Well,
Once you've come round and, you know, what's the psychology of that? Because, you know, that's a big business being employed, right? A CEO, a head of whatever. But for someone who's built this up from nothing, and it is pretty much nothing. It's a 21 acre field, and we're playing with some lettuce and cabbage, to then go to just the total other end of the scale, and bluntly, nearly killing yourself on a horse,
Yeah.
not intentionally, obviously, but yeah. What goes on in Peter's mind when you wake up? I mean, it must, you know. How do you keep going? What's the drive? What's the psychology? What? Because you have so much to sort of entertain on a daily basis.
Well, Simon, recovering from my accident, which was 5 years ago, I thought the best thing to do was sell the business. So we advertised that it's for sale.
Yeah.
We do for businesses, and it wasn't long before the many grey suits turned up with what are they called? These people, private equity.
Oh, right.
Private
Yes.
equity money
Yes.
to invest in your business.
Sure.
And I thought, well, this is all right. And so we started working on that for about a year, and it was a considerable sum that they were offering, quite flattering actually. But then when the time came to start changing heads of agreement, I didn't like it, the feel of it at all.
No.
And
Are we pulling back from delegating now to coming back to, hold on a minute, this is actually mine?
Yeah.
We're reverting back to that train of thought of...
is my baby,
Yes.
and I love my workforce.
Yes.
And these people will only rape and pillage and sell it on again,
Yes.
and probably sack half the quality people that I've got.
Yeah.
So I suddenly did a big U-turn, and 1 minute I was going to have all this money
Yeah.
that I would probably waste, and it would probably contribute to ruining my children and grandchildren's lives,
Yes.
to realizing that, hey, I've got such a good business that there's a load of money in it that I didn't know was there.
Oh, there's a wonderful problem, huh?
Well, it's funny because I said to my accountant, these private equity businesses, I've got £35 million worth of cash. Where's that, Nick? And he said, well, it's yours, but it helps me sleep at night knowing it's there.
Makes a nice pillow, does it?
Yeah. So I did this U-turn and we bought 2 more farms,
Brilliant. That's it.
1,100 acres. So we're back on the old treadmill again.
And I'm going to take a punt here, guess. Were those farms somewhere where the soil's warm and the sun's nice and it's near home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One on the Ginger Plain
Yeah.
and the other one on the Isle of Wight. So we're going south.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
So there we are. We're back on the treadmill. It will soon be my 71st birthday.
Yes.
And,
this June, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Grim Reaper did say
Yeah.
I've got another 20 years.
Okay.
So I've had 5 of them.
Okay.
And I've got 15 left.
Yeah, I think the Grim Reaper's overrated. Yeah.
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 Yeah. You can't trust him really.
No.
Or her. I don't know.
Well, we'll
Yeah.
see anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal story. What an incredible story. I can only imagine, but I would think that having built this business up over such a period of time, it would almost be, well, nothing's impossible it seems, but it would almost be very difficult to stop and have X in the bank and think, what do I do now?
Yeah.
what do I do now?
Yeah.
Then maybe the Grim Reaper might appear much sooner, because
Yeah.
surely this must be largely what keeps you going and keeps you, is this being involved.
Yeah, it does.
You don't strike me as someone who could ever really retire.
Well, someone asked me the other day what my main job was in this business, and I said it's creating an illusion that I still run it.
Is that why you now wear a branded gilet?
Yeah. But in reality, I don't run it. I have a board of directors full of very capable people
Yes.
that run it for me.
Yes.
And I apply the light touch, all the heavy boot here and there when
But
needed.
that is your role now, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the ultimate form of
Yeah.
delegation, isn't it? You're at the top, just
Yeah.
gently
Yeah.
prodding.
But I have a very good non-exec director who is 83. And I've known him 15 years.
Right.
And I have often said to him, come on, Harry, isn't it about time you retire? And his answer is, a lot of my friends through the years have retired. Some retired at the age of 30, 40, some 50, some have waited till they're 65. But they've all got something in common. Oh, what's that, Harry? They're dead.
Right, okay.
So he insists
Yeah.
that he has got another few years left to help me man the helm of my business.
Well, it must now be surely like a lifestyle. I mean, does it seem like work now, or is it just you? It's just what you do.
Yes, what I do.
And if you stopped, it would be completely foreign.
Yeah.
Because what do you then do?
Yeah, have you noticed I got my welly boots on today?
Oh, I noticed you're in agricultural gear
Yeah.
today, ready to go and probably stomp somewhere after this.
I am. I'm going to look at the field of tender stem
Yeah.
down the road, which should be ready to harvest in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
So I have to report back to my daughter who runs the Spanish operation.
I was going to say, you've actually, when we were talking about trust and employees, and what is a lovely part of even the size that Barfoot's is, which is immense, you've got, a bit of family in there running as well,
Yeah.
which is fabulous.
Yeah, my eldest daughter runs our Spanish operation,
Yeah.
and she's got to keep the tender stem going in Spain for another 2 weeks,
Yes. Yes.
and also the courgettes going,
Yes.
because the frost we had a couple of weeks ago have done a bit of damage to our crop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one thing you have to have is the ability to deliver 24/7,
Yes.
365 days of the year. And if you can do that, there's as much business as you want. But if you get it wrong, it's gone.
Right.
And they don't take prisoners,
No.
you know.
And is there always someone else ready to take your
There's
place?
always someone else ready to take your place.
Yeah.
So as you're climbing the slippery fall, you've got to make sure nobody's climbing up behind you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, where there's always someone.
yeah.
I mean, for anybody who might be listening to this who is about to start an endeavour, and I know this is a big question, and you know there's probably lots of different answers to this, but for someone who's starting their own thing, they want to achieve, they've got a mission, they've got a point to make. What? Not advice, because we're all different and we all take different journeys, yeah, and we don't know what's coming either. But what do you think are the elements that those people need? What are the pointers that you would give to someone, you know, who wants to succeed, who wants to make a mark? What do you think are what I call generic, you know, the basics and the general things that people, the mindset, the process, thought process? What advice would you give?
Well, to start off in your late teenage years, you must learn to earn.
Right.
You must learn that to buy that pair of Nike trainers takes between 20 and 50 hours of bloody hard work to buy them. And that is the start of the process,
Having a value.
having the value.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then going on and building a business, you have to have something that's scalable and deliverable, and you bring in people that you can trust and help to manage.
And is it also time spent? I mean, you said earlier that you became selfish, and I would assume that that is largely based around the fact that you've got all these things going on. You're trying to watch everything. So from the moment you wake to the moment you put your head on the pillow, you're not necessarily a selfish person, but by default, you're having to constantly monitor, which in itself could be deemed as being selfish. Do you think there's a fear that people, when they're starting, and they think, oh, I've got to work, do you think there's a fear that you can become a busy fool, for want of a better term?
Yeah. But, like I say, you have to learn to trust other people, and you have to be able to stand back and see the wood for the trees. I read a book years ago that said, I never started making money till I stopped working and started thinking.
Right.
And you must have that time to think.
Yes.
If you're a busy fool, you're not going to see anything. But if you can just step away and start thinking, then you're going to advance.
And the thing I find even more incredible about people like yourself is not only that obviously what they've created and they create on a daily basis, but more so, which I find more impressive, is the ability to pick yourself back up when you've been kicked down on your ass. Because, each time you go, one would assume the drop each time is just that little bit longer, that little bit lower. And they must get to a point sometimes where you go, hold on a minute, I've been beaten here quite a few times. Shall I just jack it in? What was the drive for you that made you get up, go, yep, okay, gloves back on, round two, let's go?
Well, I think the biggest driver of all was when my first wife and the mother of my first three children up sticks and left, because I was intolerable to live with, because all I was thinking about was work and working.
But did that make you feel sad as well?
Well, it did, but you get over that.
Yeah?
Yeah. But what I had to do was get on and run my life without her, utilising good people.
Mm. Did you miss the children?
Well, I didn't miss them because they stayed with me.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, I was mother and father for a while. Housekeeper and cook.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can multitask as well. There's no end to your talents, is there?
Yeah.
Incredible.
So, Simon, let's talk about when I come to you. Let's put the spotlight on you.
Okay.
Here I was, 18 months post a serious brain injury.
Yeah.
Had to learn to speak again.
Yes.
Which you might find quite funny, but I can speak better now than I used to. I'm less Hampshire.
You're more posh now, Peter.
Yeah. So I had speech and language therapy 3 times a week.
Yeah. Well, I remember when you first came in, and that must have been 3.5 years ago. 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3.5 years ago. Yeah.
And I remember this man sort of very gingerly, just very small steps coming in, and a very different person to now.
Yeah, and I'd lost a lot of my cognitive skills that we take for granted. Lifting a gun up to my shoulder and shooting a clay. Hopeless, And you have worked with me and helped me to do that. Because when I came out of hospital to come back home, the first thing was the boys in blue come round, took away my gun license, took away my driving license.
Yes.
And I said, okay, I can't have a gun license, but I promise you, I'm not going to shoot anybody.
No.
They said, no, we're not worried about that, sir. We're worried about you shooting yourself.
Yes.
Because 60% of people with your severity and brain damage
Yes.
end up committing suicide.
It's a really sad fact.
Yeah.
But it is a fact.
So I was in quite a broken state when I came to your shooting school.
Yeah.
And my aim was to get my gun license back again.
Yes.
And
It's amazing, that forgery we got. It's brilliant, isn't it? It looks
Yeah.
just like the real thing.
yeah. So
That was a joke.
not only did you help me get my gun license back, but you helped me develop the cognitive skills that I didn't have.
Well, we honestly, that is incredibly kind, and I still do feel very proud.
Yeah.
That we played a part in that
Yeah.
rehabilitation, and without sounding tacky, I'd be proud to have entertained that process with anyone, because it's a wonderful thing. But when I then realised what sort of character you were and what you created, I thought, oh, this could be a bit of a handful, So it was, for me and Benita, it was a wonderful thing to do.
So here I was. I couldn't speak properly. I just learned to start speaking again.
Yeah,
I couldn't swallow. I can swallow a little bit better now.
Yeah.
So I was being fed through a peg into my stomach through a syringe, which is not a great experience.
I could probably do with some of that.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of fun.
No.
Yeah. And no sense of balance. And started playing chess to help my brain start working.
Yes.
I'd just written a book to also help.
Yes.
And then to cap all of that, you got me firing a gun again.
Well, I'm forever proud, because it was obviously apparent that you'd lost use. You were stiff, for want of a better term, totally stiff. Yeah. And of course with the track in the neck as well.
Yeah.
The movement, restricted completely, and I could also see and obviously understand the frustration, because you've shot for a long time and you shoot very well. Yeah. So even though I didn't know you,
but
I
you
thought,
tell all your customers that, Simon.
one or two.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that there's when we're good at something and then we sort of have our hands tied behind our back, that's got to be doubly frustrating. And I always remember that story where you said to me, you got cross one morning and you said, I don't like you standing so close. And I said, well, no, that's fine then. And I walked off a few metres and I sent some clays out and you missed them. And then you said to me, what am I doing? And I said, I don't know, I can't see. The start of a lovely relationship.
Anyway, all I can say is thank you very much, and you've been a great help.
Do you know what? It has been an absolute pleasure. And one thing that doesn't happen with lots of customers is the fact that sometimes you make very good friends. And that's another thing I'm proud of, that we have a friendship outside of shooting and work, and that's a wonderful thing. That might be then a lovely point to bring us to a sort of conclusion of our first podcast.
Yeah, and I can go and look at my tenders then.
You can go back out and do what you do best.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for your time today, because I know time is precious, and there's always lots to do for Peter Barfoot. We didn't even touch on polo and horses and the New Forest and your love of, equestrian, but another day, I think, on that one. But from us here, thank you for sharing a great insight, and I hope, and this is really the idea behind this podcast, which we hope will one day, take off and flourish, is that if nothing else, rather like what I've done for you, but by your own admission, is to inspire others And maybe people, younger, maybe even older people, who knows, anybody, it's not applicable, an age is not applicable, but, just give someone a bit of inspiration to get up and get on and create.
Yeah, it's not just the shooting, but the environment you've created around the shooting school. Like, although you're going bang, 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 there is also a sense of peace in the environment of the trees and the topography of your area that you shoot on.
I think our sort of spiritual backgrounds have created a beautiful atmosphere that is almost like a sum of its parts. Yeah. So it is not all about the shooting, but it is all about atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's what's special at Hownhall is that ultimately we're a school and we teach people how to shoot, and we have wonderful, beautiful events for fun and for education. But the key point is that it is made up of a huge cross-section of people, from the dustman to the Lord and everything in between. But the beauty is that when they come in here, they sound all drippy and say they're all equal, but when they come here, we attract decent people. So background, it has no bearing. Yeah. It's just a really nice place. And that fits in nicely with the sort of mindful well-being vibe that runs, throughout Cowdrey and the bits that they do. But ultimately, we're very proud of what we created. Yeah. And I think through doing that, it draws in lovely people, and thus we got to meet you.
And everybody's got a story.
Yeah. Everyone's got a story.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Simon.
Peter, thank you very much indeed. And I wish you all the very best for the future. Yeah. And we'll see you again very soon.
Okay, thank you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.